Imagine turning 82 with the entire industry watching your every move, and a glossy basket shows up at the door with a tag hinting at palace prestige. That's the story people can't stop whispering about. A lavish gift allegedly sent to Robert De Niro, stamped with a loaded royal styling, and a quiet refusal that turned a private gesture into public chatter. Whether every detail is airtight or not, what caught fire wasn't the wrapping paper, it was the message behind it. The idea that a carefully staged gesture could borrow someone else's legacy for a day. In Hollywood, that tension between presentation and proof travels faster than any courier, and this one lit up group chats before the ribbon hit the floor. The headline version is simple: a basket arrives, the legend supposedly says no thanks, and 1,000 interpretations bloom overnight. But that's not the whole story. Because the moment a rumor tastes like truth, it stops needing evidence and starts living off energy. Here's why this rumor landed like a thunderclap. De Niro has never needed borrowed shine. He's the definition of quiet authority, the kind of figure who doesn't chase trends, hashtags, or freebies, and definitely doesn't pose with swag just to sweeten someone else's launch. So the notion that he'd shrug at luxury items, pricey wine, curated trinkets, a handwritten note felt believable enough to spread. It painted a clean contrast: old school credibility versus new age packaging, quiet clout versus loud optics. And when a story highlights that contrast, it sticks, because it taps something audiences feel every day: that there's a difference between being notable and looking notable. A polite "appreciate it, but no" sends that message without raising its voice. Ironically, restraint makes the loudest noise. On the other side of that basket sits Meghan, working to balance independence with inheritance. She stepped away from palace choreography to carve out her own lane, and yet the world still reads her through the lens of titles, protocol, and a 3-letter abbreviation that can fill a headline all by itself. That's why a tiny tag causes a thunderstorm. Even if it's decorative, people project meaning onto it. A nod to status, a wink at influence, a shortcut back to the room where decisions get made. And when a gift appears to double as a message, the message is all anyone sees. To some, it says congratulations. To others, it says connection. To cynics, it says currency. Once that switch flips, a bow looks less like ribbon and more like branding. The alleged rejection was simple: no speeches, no formal statement, just a boundary drawn in a single move. In a town where declines are usually sugar-coated, bluntness travels. Insiders pass along the shrug with a grin. By the time it hits timelines, the scenes are fully storyboarded. The basket lands, the legend refuses, the phones light up. What makes this specific rumor sticky isn't outrage, it's the smirk. A smirk says, "We see the game, we're not playing." And in Hollywood, refusal is a language. When someone with nothing to prove speaks it, people listen. But that wasn't the whole story. This landed during an era when audiences are hypersensitive to the gap between polish and proof. Viewers can spot the difference between momentum and the performance of momentum. The more a public figure appears to project demand without delivering work that moves people, the more skeptical the reaction becomes. So the basket morphed into a symbol, fair or not, of a strategy the internet thinks it recognizes. Packaging first, payoff later. Symbols stick longer than specifics. One tagged card can overshadow 100 neutral moves, because a symbol lets people summarize an entire arc in a single image. That's how narratives get legs. Then there's etiquette. In this town, gifts aren't just gifts, they're chess. A basket from a rising brand to a legend can read as respect, but it can also read as a request. Lend me your aura. If the label nods to royal styling, the ask gets louder, because it blends two currencies at once: crown and camera. If you're a veteran who avoids being drafted into someone else's storyline, the safest answer is distance. And distance, once it leaks, gets treated like a verdict. Nobody needs to say, "I'm out." The absence says it for them. Attention loves to fill silence with meaning, and this silence filled quickly. Now, the optics. Once online, voices tagged the basket as a bribe with bows. The internet did what it does best: exaggerate. That's the hazard of rumor energy. It becomes less about the receipt and more about the vibe. The vibe here wasn't fury, it was amusement. And amusement can be crueler than anger, because it suggests the conversation has moved from arguing with you to laughing without you. When that current takes hold, new projects have to work twice as hard to change the temperature. The joke becomes the doorway. You have to walk through it with something undeniably good just to get back to neutral. It also fused with a timeline people already had in their heads. A few glossy reveals that didn't become the cultural moments the marketing promised, a handful of launches that felt overproduced and underfelt, and suddenly every new move is graded on a curve. Fans start asking, is this collaboration or cosplay of access? Is the label doing the lifting the content should be doing? Fair or not, the past edits the present. That's why the alleged De Niro refusal traveled so easily. It plugged into a story already sketched in pencil. One rumor can ink the lines if it matches the outline. Here's the twist. The same audience that's cynical is also hungry for a turnaround. One series that feels honest instead of staged. One documentary that trades spin for vulnerability. One campaign that helps more than it headlines. These flip the energy overnight. If the basket rumor stung, it also spelled out the antidote. The cure for perception games is undeniable output. You can't meme your way around work that really connects. The crowd may be skeptical, but they're not unreachable. They're waiting for something to believe without caveats. That points to strategy. There's power in going quiet, then returning with something that doesn't need borrowed spotlight. Drop the title tug of war from the marketing. Retire the winks to embossed stationery. Let the work carry the conversation, not the watermark. Find stories that don't require introductions because they create their own gravity. Stories that open with a hook and end with a heartbeat. And if a gift is ever sent again, make it smaller, stranger, human. Something that feels like a person, not a press kit. Intimacy cuts through where opulence gets ignored. There's a human layer too. The worst interpretation of a gesture teaches the best lesson. Audiences recoil when they sense neediness. They respond when they sense purpose. You can hear the difference between "please look at me" and "here's something worth looking at." One begs, the other invites. The basket, rightly or wrongly, got decoded as the first. The next chapter has to prove the second. That means fewer symbols, more substance, fewer hints, more heart, fewer curated moments, more compelling ones. What about De Niro's side? If the refusal happened as told, it fits the legend archetype. The mythology is restraint. Attention is a cost, not a prize. No sticky associations, no quiet obligations, no press bait entanglements. That's instructive because it shows how some corners of Hollywood still operate. A phone call beats a splashy post. A private favor beats a public flourish. The quieter the win, the longer it lasts. Sometimes staying out of a storyline is the smartest storyline of all. So what actually sticks from this saga? 3 clean takeaways. First, symbols matter. Even a tiny tag can overshadow intent and reroute the conversation. Second, refusal is fluent. When it's concise, everyone understands it. Third, there's only one reliable way to reset perception: work that outruns the narrative. If the room is full of shadows, create something that casts its own. That's how you turn a rumor from a verdict into a footnote. And what happens next could surprise everyone, because the window for a fresh start is always open if the substance shows up. There's another layer the online crowd couldn't resist: the basket's supposed contents and the way those details telegraph intent. People gossiped about mid-shelf wine pitched as luxury, artisan jars that look better in photos than on toast, and linen ribbon chosen to glow under soft lighting. None of that is proven, but it fits a pattern audiences think they recognize: packaging that speaks louder than the story. Even the running joke about assistants quietly regifting baskets to break rooms turned into a character in this tale. Add in the resurfacing debates about title etiquette and you get a perfect storm. A symbol with just enough plausibility to trend, a legend with zero incentive to play along, and a crowd that prizes authenticity over aesthetic. If that red stings, it also points the way out. The most effective rebrand isn't louder branding, it's better work. Let a new project arrive without a crown or a caption. Let it land on merit. If it resonates, the story retells itself. That's the irony in all of this. The fastest route back to relevance is the slow, steady path of things that actually matter. Quiet choices echo longest in Hollywood.